Let's talk supply chain. So, welcome to the show, Chris and Andrew.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I'm excited to have you both here today. I moderated a webinar with the two of you not too long ago, and I really enjoyed it. We talked about agility in supply chain, the role of technology, and it was really a timely discussion. I learned a lot. So I'm looking forward to introducing you both to the Let's Talk Supply Chain listeners and doing a bit of a deeper dive into both Cargo Chief and Hubtek today. So let's dive in. Let's start with some introductions. Chris, can you tell us who you are and give us an overview of what Cargo Chief does and how you help your customers?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Chris Arredondo, co-founder and VP of pretty much everything customer related here at the Chief. We're a freight tech company. We solve kind of some of the industry's biggest issues through our project and procurement software called C4. When I think about issues, it's not just capacity; it's that sporadic capacity. It's not just inaccurate rates, but the volatility of the market and things like that. And then this big thing called data fragmentation. We kind of serve everything up in our project and procurement software, whether it's in deliver solutions, whether it's through automation, intuitive UI, or just an easier way to book freight.
Awesome. I love that. And Andrew, same question. Who are you and what does Hubtek do? And how are you serving your customers?
Absolutely. So I'm Andrew Gulovsen. I'm Chief Marketing Officer here at Hubtek, and we are workforce optimization. Really, as people are, looking to scale, looking to grow, looking to develop, their organization, kind of offering a three-prong approach of technology, as we'll be talking about here, automation software as it relates to various processes within the load lifecycle. We offer training and strategy and coaching from that standpoint. And then also we have a co-managed talent offering as well, nearshore staffing based down in Latin America.
Nice, nice. And I always say, and you can see behind me, the board that says collaboration is the future of business. And so this episode really, excites me because we're bringing two brands together that work together in collaboration and in partnership to really move the industry forward and do what's best for the customer, which I really, really love. And so we're going to dive more into more detail later in the show. But can you explain that partnership, right? How did you come to work together and how do you team up for your shared customers?
Yeah. So more so from our end, we more or less a business relationship. We kind of knew Hubtek early on. I think you guys started with like the nearshore outsourcing staffing side, and we kind of knew them back when one of our other founders here at Cargo Chief, Russ Jones, our CEO, we had a brokerage a long time ago. This is probably like, I don't know, 7 years ago. So well, a long time partnership, knowing the company. And then I think as we transitioned to more of a tech company, and Hubtek had solutions too. We kind of started to find solutions that kind of married together. Hubtek with TABi and their automation, and then us with the kind of the power of capacity and pricing.
Awesome. Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, really, yeah, just sort of bringing those together, as you mentioned, kind of new Russ from years ago, and through TIA and the relationship there, but really, yeah, to see where we could work together, because we recognize the value and the people that were a part of Cargo Chief, or the Chief. I love how you called it the Chief, and really just being able to bring that together. What can we do to better serve our customers, and really identifying, from our automation standpoint and the rate quoting, automation for that, and then being able to integrate what we do with C4. It makes a lot of sense, and provides customers with more sort of pinpointed and more accurate
I
solution.
want to talk about the landscape of the industry, but first, can you kind of give us a bit of an example? I know we're going to get into a case study later, but what's an example of somebody that would work with both your system at Hubtek and your system at Chief, if I'm okay to say that?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll just kind of pick up here. I think it's more like, and Andrew and I and Scott over there at Uptech too have talked a lot about this. It's really like when someone's ready to scale, and that's when someone's ready to scale, that's what really makes for a good product. Because by then you're not dealing with like low customer inertia or low buy-in. It's like, hey, we're all in this together, and you're
Right.
not really worried about every little transaction. It's the whole thing moving forward. So that makes it really easy for just everything to come together.
Yeah, I mean the broad scope of what's possible, the opportunities that exist out there that are just not captured based on time, energy, resources, and again, the two of these together provide that um, access to those opportunities that weren't there before.
Amazing. So let's talk about the landscape of the logistics industry right now and some of the challenges, because I think a lot of people are still eagerly awaiting this return to normal that we were all promised, right? What are each of you seeing from your business's perspective? Andrew?
So, on that, I kind of look to some points about the supply chain and how the U.S. supply chain gets an F plus on that, because so much has been, hey, we're working on efficiencies, we're working on how do we sort of streamline things, but the recognition through COVID and a lot of other challenges is that you've got to be able. It's everything's volatile, everything's going to change. So as we talked about before, agility becomes a huge part of
Hmm.
that. To react, and if you can be, to prepare for that ahead of time. So again, return to normal. I hate to talk about the newer, and the newest normal. It's something that is it's dynamic, it's volatile, and you have to be in a position to adapt to what's going on.
Well, and not too quickly though, right? Because I think if you onboard, implement, bring things on a little bit too quickly, then mistakes are made, right, Chris?
Yeah, I think it's too quickly, and when customers come to us with feature requests, it's like, I want to put that out there so bad, you don't know, but it's at some point it's just a roadmap. It's on the roadmap. It's on the roadmap, and I think that's like the new normal, right? Like I think everyone's just got to adapt and adjust. I mean, one thing in not just this industry, but any industry that you can depend on is change. Something's
Hmm.
gonna change at some point, and for us, it's not. I mean, fuel, for example. Like I was talking about that probably two months ago, and that's when gas prices were just crazy, and they're still pretty crazy, but they've come back down, and it's like, gosh, this is a new normal again. and
Right.
and it's like same thing with rating. When you're pricing out freight, it's like price was a big issue 2 months ago.
Hmm.
Today probably not so much, right? So
Right.
the weight has shifted a little bit more to something else. Maybe it's revenue or whatever it is, and it's like adapting to that as quick as you can, and just trying to. I think too, the industry is just before tech recognition. I think what Andrew was saying, tech has been stuck in the 80s, right? And
Right.
like I said before, it's taken
The
a
80s.
yeah, it's
Like,
taken
the
like
80s was really long ago. Can we at least use the 90s?
pre-internet,
Okay,
chisel
there you
and
go. Yeah.
slate trying to get load statuses. No, so it's taken what 10 years in a pandemic to get tracking automated, and like the
Yeah.
same thing with technology. Like we have to work together. Like
Hmm.
competition, we just got to figure out ways to work together to move the industry forward.
Well, and to stay on top of that change, I mean, you need to partner with the right people. You need to
Yeah.
make sure that you trust them and that your roadmaps kind of go together, right? Not only as Hubtek and Cargo Chief, but also both of you and your customers as well. So let's dive deeper in some of the key areas, maybe starting with cost, because over the last couple of years, we've seen the cost of booking freight shoot through the roof, right? We've polled our community on LinkedIn, and some of the prices for just, containers on ocean shipping, for example, have been eye-watering. And so, Chris, how does Cargo Chief's real-time pricing data work, and how does that help protect margins and profits, which what companies are looking for right now?
I'll kind of answer that in a couple ways. It's funny that you say the cost of booking freight, because it's
Hmm.
not just the price, it's also the company, the cost per
Hmm.
load. Like if you can't narrow down your cost, your P&L sheet down to cost per load, because that's the thing that's driving your business.
Right.
then it's going to be really difficult to understand how much the cost of booking freight actually is. And in terms of Cargo Chief and through our platform C4, yes, the pricing engine, how that's very impactful and moves the needle is because it's current. It's more of a forecast and prediction of the current market using current data that's flowing through the system and the network. And so with that, we're able to process loads as they're being booked. And just because they're being booked doesn't mean it's just a load today. You
Right.
also think that people are pre-booking. So we process loads. Somebody's booking freight right now, right? Like as we're talking right now, people are booking loads and thousands of transactions are happening in the network. And with that, it could be for tomorrow, the next day, next week. And our algorithm's processing that current data to fix where it goes on that pendulum for you to be able to quote better. And I like to think of the reps on the floor. I guess if you think Chicago model, like carrier rep, sales rep, carrier reps are the ones in charge of protecting the margin. Sales
Yep.
reps are the ones getting it, right? So
Right.
it's like there's that, but then the automation that TABi certainly helps with, and that pricing, that execution, getting it out there quickly. But then C4 also on the back end with our digital freight matching side, reducing the cost by 90% just because the expedited process to getting an option, and that's really what drives your booking, the
Yeah.
option that you get from a carrier.
Yeah, and it's not just the data, right? It's not
Right.
just the rates, right? It's the time that it takes to procure all of that. It's the time
Right.
that it takes that you're spending outside of the platform to do all of that that you're saving as well. So Andrew, how does that tie into automation? I mean, Chris just sort of talked about what you guys are doing at Hubtek, but dive a little bit deeper for me because I still have nightmares about back in the day when I worked in 3PLs, the amount of emails and phone calls I would have to make to secure just one booking. How much time can customers save by automating some of those key communications? And what's the impact on things like staff well-being and satisfaction?
Well, I mean, it's a great point on that. I mean, really, you just as you break up the life cycle of that load, from identifying and finding that freight to begin with, that we get a chance to move it. So using the automation to be able to quote that and capture that initially, then you're bringing in how do you get that into your system. So again, using automation tools to build those particular loads, then it goes out to the team to identify the capacity, and that's where a C4 can really sort of not only speed that up, but help you to be able to kind of use that training data. How do we better serve that for the longer term relationships? So then once that's done, then you can use automation to from a track and trace
Hmm.
perspective, and then ultimately to from the billing standpoint. So really the people within your organization can focus on that relationship development. They can focus on that important aspect of working with the customer, and you can remove a lot of those. So it becomes that peace of mind. You don't have all the data entry work that's going on, but the cost reduced significantly. So as Chris was talking about, what is your cost per load on that? You reduce a lot of that, and your people can really focus on improving culture, improving how you do business, and being face to face or screen to face with customers, and really building that relationship.
There's also the opportunity cost. I think that
Yep.
sometimes people don't consider that automation and partners like TABi and Hubtek can really help with. It's in positioning your team on the right priorities where it does take that human intervention. A lot of us didn't just go to college for a piece of paper. Well, we probably did, but not to email carriers individually, right? So let automation do that, right? And it's like things like that. If you think your opportunity costs like this piece of the slice of pizza, like it tastes really good the first time, but second bite, third bite, fourth bite, not so good. So maybe I transition to like salad or something, right? Something that tastes better. So like if you're thinking of where you're going to spend your time, like that's what automation can do. It's not always just what is it going to help me with, but now what do I have time for next? And also freeing up those freight mares that you said you had in the past.
Well, I like the freight mares. You come up with all these great terms. I'm gonna have to trademark those or look into them
No.
myself. But no, I think what it also does is provide confidence. right? The team
Yeah.
is confident in the data that they're getting, in working with systems like yours to be able to procure that data, procure the all those different opportunity costs that you were just talking about, right? And feeling confident and going back to the other internal stakeholders. Because it's not just about freight teams, it's not just about supply chain, right? You affect everything from sales to customer experience to marketing, et cetera, et cetera. And I think the other part of this too is that it's not just about the customer, it's also about the carrier, right? Because the carrier needs to be able to feel like they're part of the process and that they're providing value and that they're getting value back. So, Chris, from your perspective, how can all of that, the data, the automation, the efficiencies, help to increase the carrier engagement? And why is that important? Because I know that in the current market, there's a trend around volatility, uncertainty, and ambiguity, which somebody has coined a term VUCA just
Wow.
to cover all of that. So, what are your thoughts there?
I'd say carriers are, your lifeline. I started started my career booking freight, so on the covered side, and they're always going to be like your backbone, your lifeline for your business, and
Yeah.
like you really got to understand their needs, their wants, their desires, and their willingness to work with you. Like what separates your company, your brand, away from broker B, right? And
Mhm.
it's like for us on our carrier engagement side, like we try to think of more from a marketing perspective, like why is this carrier going to open my email over somebody else? Like doesn't matter what's in the email, if they don't open it, then who cares? And so it's
Right.
like making sure you don't change that behavior of the carrier is important. Making sure you're not creating friction in that process, whether it's like to reach your broker or book a load or negotiate a price, whatever it is, right? Like you really got to make sure that you're not changing the behavior, and because they're working like this, and so everybody is, right? And it's like that's really the most important thing. And on the other side too, it's like being a human, right? And I think like that's kind of like when you think about the automation, the opportunity cost, like that's where human intervention should be, building those relationships and business relationships at the same time, making sure you're in tune with their wants, their desires, not just booking a load, but why do you need 1,200? Well, my tires cost this, my insurance is this, and now you can start to understand like what your carrier's goals are. Is it just to book one load at a time, or is it to like really create that triangle and bring them back home every Friday, and so
Yeah.
something like that. So I think that takes a lot of time, and that's kind of where some things are missed a lot.
Well, you're also talking about empathy. And I think what also helps is data sharing,
Yeah.
right? Because if you're able to come to the table and be like, this is what the data is showing me, as far as, there's a variety of different data points that it could show. And then the carrier comes to the table and says, this is the data that we're showing. What are we missing? What are the gaps?
Yeah.
And that's where data really plays an important role, especially in those conversations and collaboration, right?
Yeah, it's a learned experience that gets missed often.
Hmm.
Very, very, very much so. And like anything you can do with that data, because your carrier's booking freight regardless if you have a load for them or not. They've got
Right.
an asset, they've got a driver they got to pay, and they're going to move it, right? And so
Yeah.
like they've probably got much more data than that broker themselves, because they're only giving that carrier a couple loads a week, but that's not
Yeah.
going to keep that carrier running. So
Hmm.
yeah, really understanding like where their corridor is, why do they run that corridor? Like, do they have their own shipper somewhere giving them those backhauls? And like that's very, very useful information if you can start to like strategically take your network, gain market share, and take every freight opportunity that comes through the door. And if you've got the network to cover it, you're mitigating the risk. You can book in volume, and like I said, gain market share.
Yeah, and I mean, if the capacity is there or not there, they also have choices themselves too that you have to recognize. Andrew, you are nodding your head all over the place. I know you want to jump in here.
No, well, I mean, just the kind of that frictionless experience, really, for whether it's customers or carriers, and finding ways to improve
Hmm.
that. finding ways to kind of bring about that better experience. I mean, Chris makes some phenomenal points about that carrier relationship, and if you look at a lot of brokers, so much of that is that spot market freight where it's a one and done carrier. And if you can really start to use the data that you're collecting to identify those sort of repetitive opportunities where you
Yeah.
can build up and have those relationships and have those conversations about how do we serve you as a carrier, how do we get your drivers home, how do we do
Mhm.
that, it improves the not only the flexibility when markets do get disrupted, because you have these carrier bases. You're not as dependent on market, the rates just shot up and you just have to deal with them because you're having to.
Mhm.
You have these relationships where you can actually sort of mitigate a lot of those cost
Yeah, and
differentials.
both sides can become more effective, and then essentially some of those rates might be able to come down, right? Because you're doing things more efficiently. And so you brought up customer success. I mean, there's been a notable shift in market leading companies towards a focus on customer experience and satisfaction. Chris, you're VP of customer success, and I think that really demonstrates, Cargo Chief's ethos. And then Andrew, Hubtek doesn't just provide labor, right? You're identifying talent, training them, providing state of the art technology to help them, all to help that customer achieve the biggest success. So, why is such a strong focus on customer success so important? I mean, is it a key trend to watch? And is it that shared ethos part of what makes your partnership so successful in itself?
Well, I think, in regards to customer success, is, businesses often make decisions based on what they think or what they believe. And without really talking to the customer and understanding what it is that they need, again, finding that sort of frictionless or reduced friction experience. I mean, that's the direction that needs to happen. Customers guide us in terms of where we need to go and how we need to provide that particular service. And so their voice needs to be a huge part of what's going on to make us successful, to provide new solutions and,
Yeah.
and ways to partner to move in the right direction, and to be able to continue to grow and serve them. And it becomes this, very sort of synergistic growth ladder,
Mhm.
working together with them.
Chris?
Yeah. I think when you're two companies like a partnership like ours, revenue shouldn't be the dominant leader here. It should be making
Mm.
sure the experience is one of a kind. That's what's going to keep people coming back. Like I ran a pizza shop, Papa John's. I was a general manager through college there in my town, and making sure my experience at my shop was far beyond any others was why we kept things coming, right? Like it was, we
Mhm.
were able to just knock the park out of Friday nights because, or not knock the ball out of the park because our deals were so good. The experience of the, not just the pizza, not just the pepperoni and the ingredients, right? Like it was everything that we provided to our customers. If you were at a hotel, we made sure we brought you paper plates, napkins, cups, if you got a 2 liter, and just the whole 9 yards, right? And that's really about things here on the tech side is customer success isn't support. It's not customer service. It's everything. It's the experience.
Yeah.
And I think when you do think like as running a company, yes, revenue is important, but it's also retention. Revenue and retention are the
Mhm.
main things because it's going to be 20 times more costly to go get another customer if you lose that one. And I think in brokers, like we've said before, like trust, reliability, and honesty, and all those key things that just make a good person are kind of the backbone here in the industry. And it goes both from carrier and broker. And it's like if you make sure that your customer understands that and like you're here with them, not
Mhm.
not just here for them but with them, then it's going to be a much better experience.
Absolutely. And we have that same ethos here at Let's Talk Supply Chain is that, you go above and beyond, you make it a good experience. You think about everything that you need to do, right? To make sure that it's as easy as possible. And so that brings me kind of my next question about implementation and onboarding, because
Yeah.
that's a big question when you come to technology, right? So what does that look like? And especially when you're working with two technology companies that are partnering together, walk us through what implementation and onboarding looks like for a customer of both of yours, like when they work with you together.
Yeah, I'll kind of start on this one. For us, you can kind of get our product either kind of two ways: integrated solution or off the shelf. Like it's quick. You can literally sign up now. It's intuitive enough to like import, work with your data and your information and have a good experience day one. Instant product adoption. The
Nice.
other side is kind of the integrated solution. Like, yes, your team can come in, but is that really like the goal of the business to have them open another tool? Maybe not. And I think, with that whole onboarding side, we've already built the trust and credibility, the validity in the data. Like sometimes people will come in and just like, hey, we get it. We've got a rating tool. Let me just see how valid yours actually is and how
Mhm.
accurate it actually is. And we walk through this whole thing and make sure they're successful and things like that in the first onboarding cycle. And at that point, it's really just a passive relationship to Hubtek for us because we've already built the credibility, reliability, and they're like, hey, or we say, hey, it's you guys look like you'd be a good fit for like automating your rates. Is that something you'd want to do? Have a quick conversation. They're like, yeah, let's do it. Well, here's the partner. Let's go. And at that point, it's pretty simple. And I think it's slightly different. I think from Hubtech side. So Andrew, you want to kind of say the other side?
Sure, sure, no problem. So in a lot of times the decision is made maybe at kind of at a senior leadership level to work with us, and so then it's like, okay, the person who actually does the quoting or does that gets involved. And so what we want to do is to show that this tool, how much it can sort of mimic what they do.
Mm,
So it's really walking through, here's the process that you do, and here's how this is going to be identical but more efficient, and allow you to do this and have the control so you can focus on other things. So it's really about kind of a hand holding as we go through to understand the benefit of it, and it's not just something that's been forced on them, is to say, here's
yeah.
so we do that, and then to bring in something and say, we have this particular tool, and the engine that's going to drive that is C4, that you have that trust in, so it continues to sort of build out from that standpoint. So it's all about, like I said, level of comfort, that trust, and building that up, giving them an opportunity to sort of tweak,
Yeah.
fix, break, try to break it so they can understand it, before they're really working with
Yeah.
I
it.
love that, and keeping it simple, right? I think that's the key for everybody right now. We don't wanna overwhelm them with onboarding and implementation. We just
Yeah.
wanna keep it simple and be like, "Here's your solution. Let's walk it through. What's the goals?" We partner with, some really great organizations that can help you in this area, and so I love that you're sort of building a community. So now I know it's a little tricky with 2 of you on the show, but I would hate to have an episode without a case study. So, can each of you give us a taste of how you work with customers? So, what was the challenge that they came to you with, and what was the potential impact or ROI either they could achieve or they did achieve, and sort of paint us that picture? Andrew, do you want to go first?
Sure. No, absolutely. And so really, along this path, the real time rating is kind of a really interesting prospect right now. So, as the spot market continues to sort of, adjust and compress, the opportunity to approach rates and quotes prior to them reaching the spot market is a pretty neat thing. And so for us is to be able to partner with that company, utilize a powerful rate engine, the APIs, where it becomes an instantaneous, where the customer, the shipper, is able to draw those rates out, as opposed to them being pushed out to them. They're pulling these particular rates. And again, we've had customers that within sort of 6 weeks have really sort of paid for the service that we have 10 times over. So again, the ROI on that, the number of opportunities is 10 times where they were before. And they're able to, and then the revenue that they're able to do that, because they're getting it
Mhm.
quickly, they're able to just kind of move forward. So it's really exciting to watch those customers be able to see, where before, these freight opportunities, they were able to capture one less than 1%, and now they're able to get up to 5 and 7 and 8% on that, which is um, that translating into dollars is just amazing, and
Yeah.
it's fun to see them get really excited about it, and it's driving their
Yeah.
growth, and they're just seeing it. It's almost like set it and and if you build it, they will come. That kind of thing, and that's where it's really fun and exciting.
I like that. And it's not only those dollars, right? It's the time that we've been talking about as well, and the customer retention and all sorts of stuff. So, Chris, run us through,
Yeah.
paint us a picture. What does it look like to work with you?
Yeah, I like to say every opportunity is one that can be missed or gained. And when it comes to pricing, that's probably 50 times a day.
Right.
And we've had several times where a user comes in, and whether it's through automation, I mean, that just in itself, Andrew laid the land for that. That's just a beautiful thing in itself. I wish I had that booking freight. So when you think about like just the single transactions, we've had several times where a user will come in and kind of compare us to some other rating tools that might say like 5,200 and ours happens to say 46. Well, a big swing like that, you can be a little skeptical and like, which one's right? Let me just
Hmm.
take a risk. Let me gamble. Yours is lower. Let's go with it. They ended up winning 5 loads at 4,600 each. That margin, or the revenue gained was probably 20, 25 grand. And the margin made was probably another $2,000, $3,000, right?
Right.
Just because you had a tool that said current rate or just different, right? Like and I think like a lot of people just sticking to one data input or market insight is not always the best thing, and really just having more out there and just interpreting it a different way. And I think the other side when it comes to coverage and like our capacity really is our moat and kind of how it drives the business. I'd say a lot of customers right out of the gate, they're 3 to 5xing their option pool. And when I
Wow.
say options, it's like that's what's really going to give you that take decision. It's going to help you make that take decision. Should I book this load now for 1,200 or should I wait? Is the market
Right.
telling me 1,200 or what do I have in this load? And then
Hmm.
having those options, at the same time, we're able to increase their coverage, expand that network, and like I said earlier, too, gain that market share. And
Hmm.
so, a customer in particular, they were blessed with having assets and a brokerage, so they kind of had first crack at freight because it came through their assets, and after that, they're able to broker it out if they can't fulfill it on their truck. So expanding their coverage beyond what they already had and
Hmm.
automating that option process and expediting it allowed them to kind of contribute to their growth of 200 loads. They're able to take opportunity then on 200 loads that first month in that first 30 days. Now it led to revenue gained, booking more freight, and just a better process. So we see it time and time again, and it's automation is it's just I look at it
Game
right like
changer.
I mean it's a game changer, right? I mean, it just is. I don't know. So,
I love both of those examples. It's a win 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 win
yeah,
win win win.
yeah,
Right?
that's right.
Um, so this has been a great conversation, but finally then, what does the future hold for Cargo Chief and Hubtek and for maybe the industry as we look into 2023? Chris?
Yeah, TABi, their bot over there has some really good functions that I think that we see here at Cargo Chief first line like their entire organization's issues, not just rating. And they like going back to automation, like you just like, think about the possibilities. If I like to ask our CTO sometimes, I'm like, Kirk, is this possible? Like, can we build this? Chris, anything's possible, right? And I'm like, well, that's great.
It is.
That's great to hear. So I think just knowing like when I was booking freight, if I like booked freight with that mentality, then like, man, where can we go with this? So it's like we hear a lot of these issues up front that we that might not necessarily be the expert in that avenue. So I think a partnership with TABi, I think that's in Hubtek, that's kind of where we see these things moving forward, using like the insight that we're gathering, figuring out a way how we can deploy it a little bit better with TABi quicker, so it's not just on the roadmap, and getting a solution out there.
Awesome. Andrew.
Absolutely. Well, I think looking at that entire life cycle of the load, we're connected with C4 today is mainly from the rate engine
Mm,
standpoint, but being able to look at that capacity finding, how do we bring that sort of back into solutions for the life cycle of that shipment. So, and then as we said, sharing the insights that we get to say, okay, is there an area that we haven't looked at or that we haven't really focused on, that we can talk about, let's use your expertise, our expertise, to find additional solutions going forward. So like I said, the trust and the respect we have, for the people that exist and the tools and on that just makes us say, what is
Yeah.
possible. So I love Kirk's idea of just like anything's possible. And it's just, yeah, does it make sense? Does it make sense for us? Does it make sense for our customers? Does it make sense for the industry to do that? Because there's lots of pie in the sky stuff that you're like, oh, that'd be awesome. But,
Yeah.
where does it make the most sense, and really kind of put the energies towards that?
Yeah, and putting your customer first. And this is a real life example of how collaboration really is the future of business. And it's a shame to bring this chat to a close because I think the three of us could have easily carried on all afternoon. So, transportation and supply chain as a whole continues to face a lot of challenges, which are not easy to overcome when it's still such a fragmented space. But that's exactly why collaboration is the future of business. Bringing companies like Cargo Chief and Hubtek into your network is a game changer. Of course, they're going to bring much needed benefits at a company level, whether it's saving you time and money or creating efficiencies and solving problems. But the benefits also ripple out much wider than that. As an industry, partners like this help to create opportunities, they widen networks and build stronger relationships between all of the players, which ultimately creates a much healthier, more stable, and successful environment for everyone. So, if you'd like to find out more, you can check them out at cargochief.com and gohubtech.com as well. A massive thanks to Chris and Andrew for joining me, and to the teams at Cargo Chief and Hubtek for making this episode happen. Chris and Andrew, it's always a pleasure.
Thanks, Sarah. Had a blast.
Thanks, Sarah. Chris, always great. Thank you, man.